Hello folks, welcome back. In this video, we are going to discuss the difference between assertEquals and assertTrue methods, okay? So in the previous video, we actually started talking about what assertions were, what hard asserts are. We talked about how to integrate the TestNG library within this project. So please watch the previous video if you haven't. We actually did talk about the assertEquals method. Again, I'm showing the same code from the previous class, okay? So if you haven't watched the previous video, please go back and watch the previous video as it's a prerequisite to this video here. Okay, so we discussed the assertEquals method, right? And I'm going to go ahead and type it out again just to kind of give you a refresher. So on line 30, I'm going to go ahead and type in assert, and I want to use the assert class from the TestNG library. This is very important. Make sure that you select the correct class, okay? So once you do this, just do dot and type in assertEquals. Okay, and we also discussed that there were many methods that are called assertEquals that belong to the assert class from the TestNG library. Okay, these methods are overloaded, and again, just another reminder in regards to method overloading, this means that this assert class has methods with the same name, okay, which is polymorphism in Java, or method overloading, right? But these methods have either different order of parameters or different number of parameters, different type of parameters, or so on. So this is a very, very good example as to where we're using a library that has methods or a lot of methods with the same name. And we also discussed in terms of how do I know which one to select? Well, we said that the assertEquals method, if you kind of look at them, a lot of these expect different type of arguments because it will allow you to compare two different values or two different types of many different types. For example, bytes, characters, integers, strings, objects, maps, and so on. Okay, so it's really useful. But here, when selecting these, it doesn't matter which one you select. What matters are the arguments that you're going to pass as arguments. We also discussed that these methods here have a star here because these are the most commonly used methods from this library. So I'm going to go ahead and select, let's select this one right here, okay? And if I hover over this, well, actually, and you see here that VS Code, okay, kind of has this smart feature on where it tries to enter the arguments for you. And don't rely on this so much because in most cases it doesn't add exactly what you want to add. So let's go ahead and delete this, okay? And let's get in the habit of just typing these ourselves out, okay? So first, if you hover over the assertEquals method, we also discussed in the previous video that this method here expects two arguments of type byte, okay? But we don't have bytes. Okay, so that doesn't mean we have to go back and select a different method because VS Code or the compiler will update or use the correct method we want to use when comparing two values. For example, here I have two strings, okay? The first argument here is the actual argument, and the second argument is the expected argument, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and type in, let's see, actual, which is the actual string here, okay? Actual page title, okay? That's what we're actually retrieving with Selenium, and then the expected title here, okay? So here I'm comparing two strings. The moment I added these two strings here, if I hover over the assertEquals method, now you can see that the compiler is using the method that's comparing two strings. So just go ahead and select any of them. What matters are the arguments that you're parameterizing, okay? Or passing as arguments. Now here's the thing though. If you selected the wrong class, for example, if you are using the JUnit library, well, first of all, it will be different. The JUnit library works a little bit different and it has its own assertEquals methods, but the arguments are different as well, okay? So just make sure that for this video, you're using the TestNG library for assertions. In the previous video, we also discussed that you could do something very similar with JUnit as well. You could actually do pretty much the same, but there are more methods or more additional features with the TestNG library. And for most projects or most modern projects today, using the TestNG library for assertions is actually more common than using JUnit for assertions, okay? So we already discussed this assertEquals method. We also said that you can add another argument, okay, which is a string argument with a message that you would like to print out if an assertion error is encountered, okay, or thrown, okay? For example, I'm going to go ahead and delete line 30 because we have the same line on 27. In the previous video, okay, we're comparing two values here, and we added this message here, which is optional. You don't have to, right? But we mentioned that it's nice to have so that when an assertion error is thrown, you can actually see the message as to what is failing if that's what you want, even though we get enough information here with what the program is finding. Okay, so here you can see that we expected Chroma Tech Academy with a space at the end, but found Chroma Tech, and let me go ahead and move this to the left. Okay, but found Chroma Tech Academy without a space at the end. Okay, so that's how the assertEquals method works. You're comparing two values, okay? And we also mentioned again that this is known as a hard assert because if an assertion error is thrown, the program will automatically terminate, okay? In the later videos, we will talk about how to get the program to continue running, and then we'll also discuss soft assertions as well. But one thing, keep this in mind, there is no such class called hard assert. We just refer to it as a hard assert because when an assertion error is thrown, the program terminates right there and then. And sometimes that's what you want, but in other cases, that's not what you may want, okay? So now let's talk about the assertTrue method, okay? So if I call the assert class again, and again, use the testng assert class, I'm going to say assertTrue, okay? The thing about this assertTrue method is that there are really only two methods here, okay? And this assertTrue method expects a Boolean condition as an argument, okay? You can also add a string message as well, kind of like we did here if you want to see the message in the console, which with this method, I strongly suggest because you'll see why in just a moment. Okay, so this method here expects a Boolean condition. So what I'm going to do, even though since now I have two string arguments here, I'm just going to create a Boolean. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's say if actual page title, okay, we can say, let's just use the content equals method, okay, from Java here, okay, and the contents equals method expects a string buffer as an argument. We'll go ahead and just enter an argument here, but what you need to know is that the return type is a Boolean, okay? So if the actual page title has the content that equals the expected page title here, like this, okay, and now we can see that it expects a sequence of characters here, okay, I'm going to store this into a Boolean like this. I'm going to call it, I'm going to say let's call it do page titles match, okay, like this, okay, do page titles match true or false, okay? So here's the thing though, this Boolean here, and I'm going to go ahead and comment this out on line 32. I want to explain something how this works because I've seen this in several programs and several projects where QAs are writing programs like this and they think that there's a verification happening here. If I go ahead and print out the result of this Boolean condition here, okay, we're just printing out the result of the Boolean condition. It's either going to be true or false. This is not verifying anything. Whether this returns true or false, the program will still continue. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this program to see what we get. Okay, and then to let this program pass, I'm going to come here and just delete this space so the program can actually continue to reach to this point. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run the program and let's see what we see. Okay, so the browser opens and it closes and you see true, okay? Because this page title does have the same sequence of characters that this expected title has here, okay? So they match, these strings match here. And because this content equals method returns a Boolean of assigned to a type Boolean, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and delete line 31. The point that I'm trying to make here is that these two lines of code don't verify anything at all, okay? And that's not what we want. We actually want to verify if this either returns true or false. So I'm gonna go ahead and return and delete this here, okay? And I'll go ahead and comment this out again. Okay, so what are we asserting? Okay, we want to assert true that this Boolean condition returns true. That's what this method here on line 32 will do. Let me go ahead and format this code. Okay, that's what line actually 31 will do. Okay, this method is going to verify or assert true that this Boolean expression returns true. Okay, if it does, the program will continue and it will do driver.quit. If it doesn't, the program will terminate right there as well. So we're going to go ahead and run this and let the program run. Then driver.quit. There you go. It worked. The only reason we see testing here is because we're printing it out somewhere here on line 27. Okay, but this is true. This Boolean condition returned true, so the program continued. The test passed. Let me go ahead and purposely fail this here. I'm going to add a space back here, and I'm going to comment out line 26 because we know that line 26 will throw an assertion error in this example, and I'm going to leave this as is. Okay, so here's where we're going to start to see the difference between assertEquals and assertTrue. So I'm going to go ahead and run this program, and let's see what happens. Okay, so the browser opens, and you see the program terminates right here automatically. It doesn't even get to the driver.quit point in the program here. The program did not continue to the driver.quit. It actually stopped right here. Okay, and let's double check the stack trace message to make sure that that is correct. Okay, so here's the stack trace message. Okay, we're getting an assertion error, and it says here that we're expecting true but found false. This is the tricky part of this assertTrue method. It actually won't show you the values that are being compared because no values are being compared. What's just being verified is a Boolean condition, and it's telling you right here that this is expecting true but found false, right? And if you really think about it, if you really think about just reading the stack trace message, this doesn't really help us because the next question we get is okay, what is true and what is false? And if we kind of go down here in the stack trace message, as of right now, this stack trace message does point to us as to where this assertion error was thrown, okay? And it's right here, so we can look at our code and we can say, okay, so this failed. I still don't know exactly what happened. I don't see the issue. The text aren't here. It doesn't tell me. It's not comparing values. So I need to do a little bit more research to see what happened here. Okay. So the best advice is this: when you're comparing two strings or objects, it's better to just use the assertEquals method because you could actually see the values here. But if you want to, for example, use the isDisplayed method where you're not comparing values, that's a very good time to use the assertTrue method. Here, if you want a little bit more help, we can actually add a string argument here to kind of help you when you read the stack trace message. So for example, what are we doing? We can say we're verifying page titles match using assertTrue method. Okay, true method like this. Okay, so now if I go ahead and run this program, okay, let's go ahead and run it, and the program will terminate here because we know that the assertion error is being thrown, and at least we can see this message now in the stack trace message. So this is very helpful. So whenever you're using the assertTrue method, at least I highly recommend you to at least also write a message down here so it can help you for debugging purposes. Okay, so right here we can see verifying page titles match using assertTrue method. Okay, at least now I know what failed. Okay, I was able to read this and print this out in the stack trace message. Okay, so that's the difference between assertEquals and assertTrue. The assertEquals compares two values. Okay, the assertTrue method will assert or verify a Boolean condition that either returns true or false, because there are some assert false methods within the assert class. If I go ahead and type in assert.assert false, you can also assert that a certain condition returns false as well. So again, this library has a lot of great options to verify whatever it is you need to verify within your program. Okay, so that's very important. However, these are still known as hard asserts because they are terminating the program when an exception is being encountered. The name of that exception or error is called an assertion error. Okay, so that's important to know as well. So go ahead and write this program out, and in the next videos we'll talk about what soft asserts are.